Hello and welcome to our first ever episode of the Supporting the Sustainable Future podcast. Very excited about this. I want to introduce my first ever guest. This is Mr. James Procter. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name's James Procter. I'm the Sales Director for Elite Services Group.
All right, quick introduction. So, this episode is going to be about the MCS and especially their new scheme that they've just brought out. They've brought out an update and then we're going to talk about it basically, what it entails for an installer, if it's going to make it easier, make it harder, if it's going to help mass adoption for more heat pumps in the country. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just see what's going to be good for the industry basically. So we'll get straight into it.
Okay.
So the first point of view, James, was that they're going to focus less on paperwork and more on delivering quality.
Okay.
So I have my ideas. What's your idea about that update?
Well, we've held our MCS for around 9 years now, and we hold it for both air source heat pumps and solar PV. And we have always had an annual audit from the MCS where a chap will come round and he'll do an office inspection and then he'll go and do a site inspection. And it looks like the changes to me are going to be great for the industry because they're going to stop focusing so heavily on the paperwork side and actually start looking more at the actual installation side of the job. Mm. We are very, very good on our paperwork and will always continue to be by giving our customers all the information and relevant documentation that they will need and ultimately giving the customer a handover pack when the job's complete. But from an MCS point of view, on the annual inspection, it was always very heavily focused on the paperwork side of the audit rather than looking at the actual fitted job that we'd done.
Yeah.
And we fit on average 2 to 3 heat pumps a week. And the MCS historically have only ever looked at one of our actual installs. And they give you an option to choose between 1 and 5 of your recently fitted jobs. So they're only looking at really one job in isolation with regards to the actual quality of that installation. But now it would appear that with the new scheme redevelopment, they're going to be more focused on the installation side by contacting every customer that we provide with an MCS certificate and actually getting direct feedback from the customer, as opposed to looking at one isolated job on a yearly basis. I think it's going to be really good for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an engineer at heart, and you could have the best engineer, sole trader, who does fantastic installs. 400-500% efficiency, SCOP throughout the year. Yeah. It'd be terrible on the paperwork side of things. What is the end result? What really matters is that good quality installation and it being of a high standard. Yeah. It's difficult, I suppose, because we've had that transition from just a few of us doing it into a small to medium-sized business now. And maybe our views might have changed over the years of yes, less paperwork. Now, probably less paperwork, but still some boundaries still in place so that not every guy can get straight into the industry and start picking up obviously government funding, which is important. We've seen on the in the solar days that was exploited, that funding, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
So that's why I like the MCS so much. They have good standards and boundaries and I won't go as far as saying obstacles, but systems in place that has not made that situation happen like in the past. Yeah. So I do think there is a case of taking away a few elements of the paperwork, focusing more on the installation, even probably more focusing on the design aspect of it, away from the installer, just because there is some bits of paperwork that is factory fodder and just you just keep doing it day after day really. So and it's not needed, I think, sometimes. So we do welcome that, and I think it is a good thing from the MCS.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. One of the main things that I think bullet point 1 of the redevelopment of the scheme is that they're going to be more focused on speaking to individual customers rather than an installer being able to pick out one actual job in isolation per year. It appears that they're going to be much more focused on speaking to the actual end user who's living with this product in their house, living with it day to day. It's there to do with the heating and hot water and speaking to those customers and them having a better understanding of how the whole project has been delivered by an installation company is much better than them coming to us on an annual basis to look at one individual job. So the paperwork side of things, from an audit point of view, if they're going to cut down on actually looking at the paperwork side, that's absolutely fine. But we still have policies and procedures here at Elite where we will always give the customer every bit of information from the heat loss design, all of their invoices, their MCS certificate, everything that customer needs in a file at the end of the project. So that won't stop happening with us. But it will be nice that the MCS are going to be more focused on speaking to the end user who every single job that is done by any installer where the customer receives an MCS certificate, they're going to have a call with the MCS.
Yeah.
And for a company that, we are very proud of our installs, I'm looking forward to the customers giving their own feedback.
I suppose the end game would be, and I caveat this as much as possible, is that, the end game might be one day that all installations are remote monitored.
Yeah.
But we do understand that comes with its difficulties as well. You could have a customer who's not as hell-bent on efficiencies. They want higher flow temperatures because they've got a massive amount of solar panels on the roof, and they want to keep that initial installation cost down. So it does come with its problems as well that way. But I think there might be a good medium happy point where they can remote monitor and go, well, that is a good installation. Or you could, like you do on an MC estimator, saying this is what we estimate the SCOP and the COP. Is it matching up to the remote monitoring? That can sail through that audit that year and not even have to be picked up because it's there. So, I do think that would be a good one. I mean, other bullet points are risk of non-compliance will determine the frequency of your assessment.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one that I fully agree with. Rather than just individually speaking to every single company on an annual basis, it would appear that the changes to the scheme are going to be that the more a company receives a complaint or they contact the MCS because they're not being happy with the installation process. It might be the sales process, might be the paperwork, or ultimately might be the finished product that the customer's living with. The more times a company is reported to the MCS for a non-compliance, the MCS, how it reads to me is that they're going to be more focused on the companies that are getting more complaints and leaving the guys who are doing a good job and continue to do a good job to carry on trying to get to net zero and continue to do quality installations.
Not being audited every single year, because I mean the audit process we know is a full day process. You have to be prepared for it. They go out to your installation, see that on site, and then come back, and it's a lot of the day back in the office. So it is a big thing. I mean, my kind of point of view with that would be that how do they do it? Do they do it in ratio of how many you're fitting? Because you can have an installer who's done 3 installs a year and might have a slight miscompliance on one of them, and then he's been audited. But he's only done 3 installs.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at
a company that's fitting 10 a week, but either way, whether you're fitting 3 a year or 300 a year, the quality has to be there.
Yeah.
So as a customer, you'll be able to see the from Google reviews and looking at accreditations of a business, the quality of the job that they do. I mean, you and I both know that along the way of an installation, there are speed humps, and sometimes there are reasons to go back for snags and things like that. But a good company will be looking after their customers, so it doesn't get to the point where that customer should be contacting the MCS.
Yeah. So
irrespective of ratio, I think the scheme's fair and it presents a level playing field for all installers.
So I'll touch on other points. So we're looking at standardised assessment. Really do like that. That's definitely been, I won't say an issue, but definitely been something in the past where you'll have an assessor which focuses on one aspect of the job.
Yeah.
You'll get an assessor next year and he'll focus on something different. How do you prepare? What to expect? I think that the assessors, and rightfully so, will focus on parts of the what they're comfortable with instead of learning standardised aspects. What is the efficiency? What are the flow rates? Lagging standards. All of these things in terms of a good quality installation, they should be singing from the same hymn sheet. There is being mentioned on these bullet points that they are going to get away from the likes of third-party assessors and stuff like that. So that I think that's a welcome addition to the MCS, the standardised assessment. So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah. Well, I think that one's quite short and sweet, really. Obviously, I know that there'll be installers out there that have their opinions of certain elements of their annual audit, and obviously sometimes you have an assessor that's very in-depth. Sometimes you never know quite what to expect. It's never kind of been standardised as to what they're going to be looking for on the day. And we've had a lot of audits where it's been 90% office-based, and they've just popped to site to have a look, which is absolutely fine. But I will welcome the changes in respect of it'll be more focused on the actual quality of the installation and the efficiencies of the systems that we fit, because that's our main focus. It's not about just fitting a heat pump for a customer. It's fitting one neatly, efficiently, and it's going to be best for that customer living in that house and the property type that they've got.
Yeah. So our next one is centralised customer complaints management. So yeah, I mean, straightforward again. We really like the sound of that. I mean, from a consumer point of view, if they have an issue, in the past, they go to Ofgem, REC, all of these governing bodies. Yeah. It can be quite confusing. Just to streamline that and say you just go to the MCS, that is really, really good for the consumer. Yeah. I really like that. So I think that's
again, that one's quite straightforward. They've really recognised there that the customer's not having to make 4 or 5 phone calls to numerous 0800 numbers to sit in queues. It's going to be quite straightforward in the respect that if their customer has an issue, obviously the first thing they should really do is go to the installer. But if they're not getting any joy from said installer, it's just one central place that they can go to, and it'll all be dealt with directly by the people who govern the industry. So yeah, another welcome change.
Yeah. What else have we got? We've got consumer code membership no longer mandatory.
Well, again, that just leads in from point 5, really. Obviously, ever since we've held our MCS, we've had to either have an RECC, the Renewable Energy Consumer Code, or a HISE accreditation, which again is another monetary thing that requires paperwork from the office.
And I suppose that puts off sole traders again. How many more accreditations, how much more cost towards just getting there and fitting the heat pump in the first place.
It's another hurdle to jump through for the installer, which should hopefully make it more attractive for more installers to come to this industry.
Yeah.
And I think standardising it so the MCS have kind of got carte blanche for the installations, the installers, and looking after their customers. I think it's another welcome change.
Yeah, I mean, we look back at when we started, and if we had these updates in place, then it would make it a lot easier. And I say focus on a good install instead of are we with REC, are we with HISE, are we compliant, is the paperwork right? I think there would be, and they recognise you can push on towards, because it's only natural that your quality of the work gets better as the years go past, and people do have to start from somewhere. So if they can fast forward that quicker, then it's
just to expedite the process. I mean, I would welcome the MCS having an online portal. I don't know if this is something that they've got in there, that will come in the future, where yearly you upload all of your insurance certificates, all of your health and safety documents, just a central portal where yearly we have to do that. And a company that's fitting these products should readily have them available on a company drive to upload once a year to ensure that they are insured, they are legal, they are safe, they are complying with health and safety. But again, just to go back to the earlier points, giving every customer a call from the MCS to ensure that the process that's been followed, any customer who goes to a company that isn't looking after them properly, it's going to be vetted and looked after by the main central organisation of this industry. So again, it's something that I think it'll streamline the industry. It'll make it more attractive for installers to come on board. But obviously, from a paperwork point of view, ours will still be as it always has been.
I think one important point is in that, what we've experienced in the past is there's been companies out there that seem to last in 1 or 2 years, leave a destruction of work behind them. the customer can't get in touch with the installer.
Yeah.
Where do they go? And then miraculously, this new company comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, we've experienced that in the past.
Yeah.
So I think it would be quite important as well when they were saying about how many assessments to how many installations. I think whilst you're still relatively new to the industry,
Yeah.
you know, whether you're good or bad, I think you should still have that audit. And then when you get to year 3, year 5, that kind of dies down because you're going, look, they get longer in the game, the quality is right, we're happy with them. But a brand new one, is it just that bad company that's re-emerged with a new director, which we've seen?
Exactly. Yeah, we've seen it time and time again, and we as a company, you know, we spend a lot of time looking at problem heat pumps and problem installations that have been, you know, not put into the standards that they should be. Yeah, but to join the scheme, I still believe that the MCS should go out and vet that company and have a look at their installs. But it is, for me, a really good thing that they're going to just contact customers directly and, you know, maybe contact us and ask us how our system's performing, especially with you talking about their remote monitoring and things like that. I just think that the changes are welcome, and I think the MCS, you know, they've been on this road with us as well for as long as we've been involved, and it's nice that they've recognised that the installers do need the focus of the MCS to be more towards the customer and the installation as opposed to an annual paperwork assessment.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good for everyone involved.
Well, yeah, let's wait and see, what happens. But yeah, you know, MCS do a good job. We do like the work that they're doing, and we do welcome their new changes. So that's brilliant. I mean, I just wanted to touch on a couple of other points of view. We're talking about the MCS. We're talking about mass adoption to get as many heat pumps into the country as possible. Therefore, getting to net zero, and that's the whole point. So, you know, a few points that I want to bring up is. What do we feel like the MCS and the hurdles that they have to overcome and the industry has to overcome to get that mass adoption? Now, you know, we've had things in the past, things current still actually. One of them is the 1 metre boundary rule. I mean, in Wales, I think it's 3.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. In 1 metre boundary rule.
Are you talking about where we site the heat pump at a customer's house in locality to their neighbour's
boundary, yeah.
Okay.
So the 1 metre boundary rule, that can't be within 1 metre of that neighbouring boundary. You know, we've had situations where we put in the heat pump at the back of the garden, but it's still close to that boundary, and you can't do it.
Yeah, no.
Whereas the neighbouring window is 20 metres away.
No, absolutely. It should be property specific. It should be like the sound calculations more than the actual distance to the neighbouring boundary. Yeah, it needs to be looked at kind of differently because, as you say, if it's going 10 metres down the garden and we're within a metre of the neighbouring garden, that's fine. But if it's going on a terrace property, for instance, on a bracket on a wall, then that rule should absolutely apply. But it should be more on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely appreciate that the MCS have had to be careful in their approach for heat pumps into the UK because, you know, if we talk about, you know, not many rules in place, it would just be carnage. So I get that these rules have been difficult to overcome, but at the same time, I do welcome them because, you know, the UK and the installer has had to add baby steps into this new industry.
Yeah, and we're all learning together.
Exactly. So, I mean, the 1 metre boundary rule, you know, obviously you need planning permission for 2 heat pumps or anything over 0.6 square metre cubes.
Yeah.
You know, there's some twin fan heat pumps out there that are over that, and that is 1. I mean, it is crazy that you can put a massive oil tank in the back of your garden.
Yeah.
But yet, when it comes to one particular twin fan unit, you still need planning permission.
Yeah. But as I'm sure we both agree, that's on the radar. I think there are changes coming for that.
Yeah.
In a lot of instances, it can't come soon enough. In my opinion, definitely, because a lot of these more rural properties, the site for the heat pump might be within a metre of their neighbouring garden. It's just the garden. It's not next to, you know, a bedroom window.
Yeah, and
so
then
again, it should be a case-by-case basis, like the sound calculations are.
Yeah, and same again, you know, 2 heat pumps, you should refer to sound calculations as well.
Exactly.
You know, obviously we want to put, you know, heat pumps in people's properties, and how do you do that? And like you say, it's a case-by-case basis.
Exactly. I mean, there's some obvious situations where there needs to be rules for these things, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of problems if people just start putting these outdoor units anywhere they fancy. We do fully agree with the rules that need to be there, but there needs to be a bit more leniency and a bit more tolerance as to where these things can be sited, because on some properties, there's only certain places you can put these things, and sometimes it might be that it's within a metre of a neighbouring property, but not near a lounge or a bedroom window.
Yeah, well, we'll see where that comes in and whether it's going to take effect.
But it's nice to see that there are changes coming. You know, that there's things happening all the time. Obviously, the government, you know, earlier in the year lifted up the £5,000 to £7,500. So we're seeing an uptake in that from our own customers. But it's just with the uptake is coming. It's a different demographic of customer. Whereas on the old RHI scheme, we were in much more rural areas.
Yeah,
and the houses were typically we're a detached property, but the boiler upgrade scheme is focusing on people who live on housing estates and new builds where the houses are built quite close together and on top of each other. And obviously the 1 metre rule can sometimes be a hurdle for us. Whereas in years gone by, we never really even had to question it because we were dealing in farmhouses that were on oil. So absolutely, it's just something that needs a tweak, in my opinion, from a sales and installation point of view.
Yeah. I mean, this is a huge subject and probably an episode in itself. The adoption or possible adoption of hybrid systems. Now, you know, we have to touch on this quite carefully of hybrid systems. I know that you can put some in on some local funding, some government funding and stuff like that. Obviously not on the bus grant. We have to say that. Has hybrid systems got a place? Is it the right steps? I mean, at the end of the day, the goal is net zero. And we can all interpret net zero in different ways. Is it zero carbon or, zero carbon altogether? Or is it, you know, we're not producing more carbon than what we're producing? So that you know, net zero, is it net zero? You know, if we go down the hybrid route, are we kicking the can further down the road and just...
Yeah, I think the topic of conversation is very relevant and current because, again, going back to the conversation about the 1 metre rule, there are, and looking at certain houses where installing some of the heat pump technology, the actual physical equipment that goes in the property, it can sometimes be problematic to put hot water cylinders into these houses. And going back to the EPCs for the properties and the heat loss calculations, it's the boiler that's using 90% of the annual gas for the heating needs. The hot water is a very, very small amount. So whilst I do fully agree with getting every opportunity, every house that we go to onto full renewable energy, I think to get rid of a lot more, you know, gas usage in this country, having a boiler in place that just does the hot water, which is 5 or 10% of your annual of your heating and hot water needs on an EPC and on a heat loss calculation, that I do see a place for it where it is kind of the last option. This is the option going. It's either hybrid or they're looking at a new boiler.
Exactly. Altogether. I mean, there is other applications in there. There's the SunAmp. The SunAmp thing. It comes with an expense. It comes with a cost. I mean, I love that technology. But yeah, I mean, same again, hybrids. When you're looking at, I mean, we've had jobs where we've gone, look, you know, you're looking at 2 or 3 heat pumps because it's a big, massive property.
Big property with a high heat demand.
And the return investment's not there.
Yeah.
So
or a low temperature or even a high temperature heat pump will just not get that house to temperature. We just cannot get the flow rates from the heat pump. So I do see applications and the need for the hybrid systems to be part of this scheme, but they need to kind of be third or fourth option after you've exhausted every opportunity to get that house off fossil fuels.
Say, like, you know, you've gone through the planning route to 2 heat pumps, and it fills that planning route.
Exactly.
Well, there you go. Then we've got an option. You know, maybe there's a case of anything over a certain amount on their EPC, and I know that EPCs are very estimated, so we're just going to say that. Yeah. But if there's anything, let's say there's anything over 30,000 BTUs, Kilowatt hours, yeah. That's old school, that's not good. Kilowatt hours on their EPC.
Yeah.
Then does that be able to apply for a hybrid route?
Absolutely. It needs to be a case-by-case basis because sometimes putting 2 heat pumps outside a house, I mean, as I spoke about 5 minutes ago, there's a lot of houses that don't have place at all for a heat pump, and we end up having to go a little bit down the garden or wherever. So putting 2 heat pumps in can be massively problematic.
Yeah,
and the boiler upgrade scheme, which has just been fantastic, and we we like the way that this is going, but there's a lot of houses that just have a combi boiler in, and finding a 700, 800, 900 square of space within that house to fit a cylinder.
Oh, it's for a cylinder.
To fit a cylinder can be problematic. It really can, and it can be end of the sales process because they've not got the space to sacrifice for a cylinder.
I mean, I've just thought about this now, but it's like, is there a case of going, look, your purpose is to cut X amount of carbon in that property?
You can get 60, 70% of it
of
down.
the carbon off.
Yeah, because at the moment you only get the funding if we do 100%. Whereas I've alluded to a few times, the hot water demand for a house is, if you've got 2 or 3 people having a 5 or 10 minute shower a day, that usage for a fossil fuel is very low. So where there's a property where the application lends itself to 100% low temperature heat pump, absolutely.
It's like 90% of the time.
It should be, again, when you're applying for the voucher, it should be, here's how we have come to the conclusion that this is the system that we're installing.
Yeah, or maybe hybrids go under a review, like 2 heat pumps or 2 planning permissions.
Why are you doing this?
Yeah, why are you doing a hybrid?
Yeah. And these are the reasons why, because there is physically nowhere to put a hot water cylinder in the house.
We have got 60% of the carbon or 80% of the carbon down. There's no place for the cylinder. We can't get planning permission for 2 heat pumps. The return investment's not good for that, and they're looking just to go back to a boiler. This is the case for a hybrid, and they look at that approach. Do then they get £5,000 towards a bus grant instead of
maybe £7,500 is for the full hot water and heat demand of the property, but you get 80% of the funding if you're leaving your hot water in there. We could shoot these ideas about all day, but there's certainly a place for hybrids within the market, but it cannot be the first product that you talk about when you walk through that door.
Our fear is that if you go to hybrid and say, right, hybrids are now on the bus grant, that is just going. It's just going to breed no quality of installs.
Exactly.
It really is. It'll be a nightmare.
There'll be an element of installers that will be going to people's houses for the easiest, quickest in and out. Yeah, just get in, get out, get it done. Whereas proper heat pump companies will be there to design the heating system for the house for the maximum efficiency of the system, and instantly just going straight to heat pump outside, new combi on the wall isn't advocating the renewable,
or even using their existing combi and keeping that.
Exactly.
So, I do like the hybrid. I do like that going. Look, the real shame about it is, I'm not a designer or anything. The shame about it is you could go, right, can't get a hybrid. We have to go to a gas boiler. Yeah. And then 10 years time or 7 years time, they bring out a combi heat pump out there, and you're going, we could have gone down. We could have gone halfway towards, the heat pump route or something like that. I just think, I don't know if I like the idea of hybrids, but I think it definitely needs looking into a lot more.
Yeah, it needs a process in place where a hybrid is the only option, and the customer is asking to get off gas as much as they can. It does have its place.
Yeah, and when we're talking about hybrids, you can have a hybrid in your house. I'm just saying, like, hybrid if you want the bus grant. So that's what we're saying. I could put a hybrid in tomorrow, but if you want the boiler upgrade scheme, everything that has to be renewable energy,
renewable, and there just might be scope for that, in my opinion, in the future for a bit of leniency in there, so we can win more installs, get people 70 to 80% off the fossil fuel that they're on, but also have something there for their hot water usage, or for these larger properties where the heat pump just can't get it quite to a desired set point in winter.
We had pretty much a manor house. He needed 3 9-kilowatt heat pumps. Yeah. Obviously looked at the information we give him, looked at the estimated run and fuel costs, installation cost, run cost, put it all into obviously his own spreadsheet and gone, this does not make financial sense.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I remember the job I had to try and sell it to him.
You sold it. It was my. It was my design. That
killed it. He was the deal prevention officer.
Yeah, sorry. But obviously, 90% of the time, 100% of the time, we want to be, fossil fueled appliances. That does happen 90% of the time when you're putting in a single heat pump. But when you're going to 2, 3 heat pumps, it's going, a lot of the time it's where they can get that oil cheaper, and they've got to deal with some oil company.
Exactly. There's always something that will kind of put a blocker in place
Yeah.
to purchase these products. And the boiler upgrade scheme grant's been absolutely fantastic to get it more to the mass market. It's just that in future, it's really nice to see that there are tweaks being made to certain elements of our industry, but obviously just as a talking point for hybrids, something that we discuss quite regularly is that there is a place for it, but it cannot be your go-to, and it should never be. It should be a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
And you should have to prove and get funding up to the amount of the fossil fuel that you're getting rid of to stop lazy installations.
Or when it used to be on the RHI, it was metered, and it was how much that came from that renewable energy.
I mean, heat meters already exist, so why not?
Go back to that hybrid heat meter, and you get paid for how much is on the renewable energy.
Exactly. There's tweaks that can be made, but to get more heat pumps into more houses, sometimes fitting the 100% renewable technology of the heat pump and the cylinder and everything that goes with it. There's even properties we go to where you can't increase radiator size because it's a beautifully finished, decorated house, and they have a certain type of radiator in that property, and they don't want to change it. There just needs to be a bit more flexibility, in my opinion, for us to get more people off the bulk of their fossil fuel usage.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, we could go around in circles on this all night,
I don't think we've got enough battery life in the mics and the cameras and stuff to go on all day. But yeah, we really like the MCS. We love what they're doing. I like that they get feedback from the installers, and they're trying to implement more new schemes.
Yeah.
Really listening to the installers out there. We welcome that really good installers can get on to fitting heat pumps. Obviously there's a skills gap, there's a skills shortage, and you can say even a skills shortage just because they can't get to fit in heat pumps because of these things in place.
And again, I think last time I spoke to a company that were looking to get MCS qualified, I think there's that many people trying to do it now that the waiting list just for an assessment is quite far in front. So yeah, the changes, in my opinion, are welcomed by the industry, but from us, you'll always get more. There's lots of other speed humps and kinks that need ironing out to get this industry flying even higher than it is. Yeah,
and obviously the future's bright. We've only just started on this. This is early adopters.
Yeah,
as you say, I don't think that we've even touched the surface of. Our country's change into the.
Oh yeah, we haven't scratched the surface yet. There's a long way to go.
Well, I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, we have.
Thank you for being my first guest on the Supporting the Sustainable Future. If you want to catch me in real person, probably not. I'm at the Installer Show. We're at the Installer Show, Elite. Not on a stand, just walking about, basically. I'd love to chat to anyone who cares. That's the 25th to the 27th. I think I'm there on the Thursday.
That's June this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going on to the Heat Geek stand. We are Heat Geek Elite. We love Heat Geek. Absolutely love them. So we're on that stand talking to everyone, anyone. So catch us there. And thank you very much.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to do what I've just done and get grilled by James, then please comment in the section below.
Yeah, if you want to be a guest, if you want to get grilled.
Yeah, so I don't have to do it again. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, James.
All right,
Cheers,
all the
you.
best. Thanks. I'll see you at work tomorrow.
You will.
Basically.